So I saw Tenet. I saw Tenet, a new film for Christopher Nolan. And what's my take? Where do I even begin? One thing we can always depend on with Christopher Nolan is that he has a brand. Not just a style, a brand. Whether or not his experiments pay off is secondary to the brand. The quality of his work is all over the map. He's squat out a few bangers like The Dark Knight, which in my opinion is a perfect film, and Dunkirk, which was a great film. But if Nolan is incapable of making an outright bad movie, it's not for the lack of trying. With Tenet, he makes that abundantly clear. This is that other Nolan, the sloppy, incomprehensible Nolan who does a vanishing act up his own anal vacuum of time and space and adds a pseudo-intellectual sheen on the findings. The word tenet is a palindrome which means principle or belief, aka jack shit. This to me sums up Nolan's attitude in films like Interstellar and Tenet. I'm going to fuck your face, so try not to think about it too much. This one's for me. Nolan is a sadist, a sociopath, a family-friendly anarchist whose primary goal is to fuck with your head. Watching a Nolan film is like having sex with Elon Musk. You've been conned into believing it's going to be the best thing ever, but you can tell his mind is elsewhere. You've watched too much Joe Rogan and you're dripping backed up seminal fluid from your eyeballs. Oh yes, I'm recommending the film, but not 'cause it's good, at least not in the traditional sense. It's entertaining in terms of action, set pieces, and spectacle, certainly more than most. There's nothing phony whatsoever about the technical aspects of it. But I can't say it makes a lick of sense. It's a turgid, lazy fart carnival in terms of storytelling and character development. The plot is what you might call deceptively complex. I genuinely think that Nolan is a grifter who no longer values plot, characters, setting, even proper editing and sound mixing, which I'll get to in a minute. Unlike Dunkirk, Tenet is a surprisingly dialogue-heavy affair, and boy are there some clunkers. Your future is in your past. We live in a twilight world. We live in a twilight world. Yeah, you said that already. Care to elaborate? Nolan be like, I don't think so. The protagonist, played by John David Washington, and his compadre, Bob Pattinson, serve as little more than walkie-talkies, mouthpieces of exposition as they bounce from one location to the next in the space of 2 minutes. In the first hour or so, the film has a way of trying to explain everything that's going on, but in a way that makes it seem even more preposterous as the events unfurl. There's a handful of scenes in which there are two people talking. The simplest type of scene to shoot. Anybody could shoot this. But no, the editing can only be described as premature ejaculation. No establishing shots, no room to breathe. There are about 20 cross-cuts in between 3 lines of dialogue. Are you on meth? What is this shit? And don't even try to justify these as artistic jump cuts. Jump cuts only work in a film which allows breathing room, a contrast in editing to give the illusion of merit. This is simply incompetent. Nolan never alters his frenetic tone, not for a second, to slow down and explain anything to the audience, or even to convey the little pieces of information. This is one of the most poorly communicated mainstream films I've seen since perhaps The Rise of Skywalker. The characters talk real fast, too, like they're on BoJack Horseman, all while lacking in the comic levity required to make that work. But that's not all. On top of this, you have your obligatory atrocious sound mixing from Nolan. Many scenes sound like the characters are playing telephone with tin cans as you watch from a distance. While I managed to make out most of the dialogue, there are certain scenes where it's not even worth trying without subtitles. And from a Reddit AMA with Nolan's sound engineer, I learned that yes, his films are intentionally mixed this way to create a, quote, punk rock vibe. Just go along with it, bro, he's a genius. It's like watching Gordon Ramsay try to make a grilled cheese sandwich. He's so focused on trying to reinvent the wheel and give it an aura of monarchy that he fails at nailing the basic elements of the sandwich. Now, I'm not one of these grilled cheese purists who says you have to use Kraft singles, fuck that. But you ain't grilling no brick cheese. You'd think such a master chef would have no trouble understanding it, but I guess this is what happens when you've been patted on the back one too many times.
The kimchi with that incredible cheese, especially with that pepperberry, it's just gonna be a wonderful combination. Beautiful. The cheese is melted. That is delicious.
Let me know in the comments what you think of that amazing dish, and
there were scenes where everyone sounds like Bane while... Dude, seriously has got to be trolling at this point. There's no way anyone could think this is a legitimate sound mix for a film that's mostly dialogue. No, just go along with it, bro, he's a genius. The score is big and dumb and tone deaf. Just overbearing. It sounds like it was thrown together at the last minute. And when you take the general outline of the film into consideration, you'll find it's really your standard run-of-the-mill action movie. All Nolan did was cut his story in half and do the reverse effect on certain scenes, like taking two halves of a sandwich and flipping one slice of bread. Musicians will use this technique on their computers to make their music sound trippy. I've done it, and it works. Nolan is at his best when he brings out the big guns. His action sequences are as sleek and brutal as ever, though nothing mind-blowing on the level of the Dark Knight trilogy. But the time inversion is pretty cool, and I did experience an aha moment when the film eventually gets to where it was going. Unfortunately, to offset the frantic pace, the film is quite literally a minefield of MacGuffins, riddled with meaningless symbols that would have been best coagulated or extracted entirely. There's pills and paintings, suitcases and plutonium. What the Indian lady is doing here is anyone's guess. Much of the film seems half-constructed as Nolan scrambles to maintain his frenetic tone, losing all of his notes to the wind like some absent-minded professor. Subtract all of his idiosyncrasies, and you're left with your average run-of-the-mill action picture. Nothing about it really stayed with me. You get the sense that Nolan is losing his grasp of basic cinematic language and not trying anything new in the process. Oddly enough, it's the simplest threads of the film, those that needed about 2 seconds of explaining, that have nothing to do with the inversion of time, that end up being the most confusing, such as the relationship between Sator, a Russian energy oligarch, and his wife. These are two of the most cliched villains Nolan has yet conceived. Sator's motivations are never fleshed out into a coherent ethos. He might as well come equipped with a name tag that reads Bad Guy. Kenneth Branagh's a good actor, but in this role he is so over-the-top histrionics, I shit you not, he says something to the effect of, "Don't mess with the tiger! I will show you true nature!" I mean, they really hammer this home, like, oh, he's this bad, toxic wife-beater criminal. He says to his wife, "If I can't have you, no one can." Anakin? The protagonists fare a bit better, even though they're sketchy. John David Washington and Robert Pattinson are solid and charismatic leads, which is impressive considering the film gives them each about 10 seconds to expound on their motivations. This is not the first Nolan film to contain Venus-sized plot holes and gaffes in storytelling, but at least in something like The Dark Knight Rises, the characters were strong enough that you could suspend your disbelief enough to overlook these flaws. Tenet just doesn't have enough high stakes to leave one fully satisfied. I don't know why this dude couldn't deliver a script that doesn't sound like it was written by a third-grade Mark Zuckerberg. The fact that he wouldn't allow a video-on-demand release in the wake of a pandemic so that people could have subtitles just makes him even more of an autistic dick. I admired the hidden simplicity of the concept. I'm sure the fanboys will dissect each and every frame back and forth like Zapruder. I'm telling you, it's not that deep. Take a sandwich, make the sandwich, flip the bread, and you have Tenet. If you try to analyze this movie even for a second, it falls apart. So you just gotta let it wash over you like a golden shower. The best advice I could give to Christopher is, bro, if you want to make dumb action movies, just do that. Get back to the basics. Stop acting like you're some fucking physicist. We see the con, no one buys it. This movie gets a 6 from me. Definitely one of his worst. What do y'all think? Let me know in the comments.